seriously popular.
Hello. Happy Liberation Day, Kelly. Did you miss me?
Missed you a lot. There's a lot you missed while you were gone, so we're happy to have you back.
Yeah, I'm gonna need your help catching me up a little bit because I actually have stayed not updated in MAGAland somehow over the last 2 days. So we have a lot to talk about. We have a result in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Of course, today is Liberation Day, and Trump is expected to issue an announcement about tariffs at 4 p.m. It comes as China, Japan, and South Korea have apparently agreed to respond to the tariffs as a group. We're, of course, going to be talking about Cory Booker breaking a record in the Senate, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is calling for the death penalty for healthcare CEO alleged assassin Luigi Mangione. Of course, we're also going to be discussing a Daily Mail exclusive of Ashley saying Clair and Elon Musk back in the headlines. And we have a special interview to start it all with. We're going to be talking with former Navy SEAL, famous for shooting bin Laden. He is Robert J. O'Neill, and he's joining us today here in MAGAland. We'll be back after the break.
If you like this episode, we think you'll love this.
This week on The Life of Bryony, what if the hardest thing was to just accept yourself? I'm joined by Callum Scott to talk about body dysmorphia, being on Britain's Got Talent, and why self-acceptance isn't about being perfect. Listen to The Life of Bryony, available now.
Welcome to MAGAland.
And we're back in MAGAland, and we're joined today by an awesome guest. We have Robert J. O'Neill. He is a former Navy SEAL that most of you are probably very familiar with already. He killed Osama bin Laden, and he's also author of a New York Times best-selling memoir, The Operator, Firing the Shots That Killed Osama bin Laden and My Years as a SEAL Team Warrior. So, Rob, thank you so much for being here. We have so much we want to discuss with you. And it's really exciting to be able to speak to you face to face. So to kick it off, there's been so much we've talked about in MAGAland about Pete Hegseth and his role leading the Department of Defense. We spoke with you, I believe, when he was still in his confirmation process, and you gave some good insight into how he was going to shake up the bureaucracy at the Pentagon. What's your assessment of how he's been doing so far, especially as he finds himself embroiled in the Signalgate drama?
You know, he's doing a great job, already traveling a lot. What he's doing is talking to the troops, talking to the enlisted troops. He's getting out there and doing PT, physical training, workouts with them. He's been to Hawaii. He was actually at the SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 2, worked out with them. They're pretty hardcore. He's going all over the place. He's doing stuff a little bit the way he should be doing it to deflate the, who should serve in which branches should women be in combat. What he's going to do is make a standard physical test, a readiness test, and if you pass it, you're in. So it doesn't matter what gender, what rate. Well, they're not doing transgender anymore too, but if women can pass the test, then they can be in combat. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I think he's smart. I think he's trimming the fat. Like Senator Kennedy said famously a couple of weeks ago, when you start to trim the fat, the pigs start to squeal, which is happening. And they're going to be yelling about him nonstop. The Signalgate thing didn't help. That was more on the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. As a Green Beret colonel, he's just no OPSEC, and you shouldn't be sending group chats. Also, you should make sure who everyone on your group chat is. In Pete's defense, however, he is able to classify or declassify anything he wants. The left won't tell you that. He's a Secretary of Defense, and he can. He did put stuff in there he probably shouldn't have. Nothing was classified, and the mission was totally successful. Nobody talks about that. They're defending the Suez Canal, which is huge for world trade and stuff, and just basically sticking a thumb in Iran's eye, because Iran is all behind all of this. But I'm happy with what he's doing. We have a strong military. We're going to get stronger, and we're going to get better people in there.
When you bring up the military fitness test, I think this is a big change from what we've seen in the past. And I want to get your perspective from being on the ground in some of the most dangerous situations imaginable. Why should it be blanket between anyone in the military? Like, why is that so critical? And then also wanted to ask you about the transgender portion, this ban that we're looking at, the transgender ban in the military. Do you think that's going to be helpful to mission success in the future?
Well, it is. I mean, first of all, the reason you need a physical standard, we'll keep it simple. Let's say you have 10 people in a platoon that's going to go out and they have 1,000 pounds of gear to carry. Each person needs to carry 100 pounds. If you can't carry 100 pounds, you shouldn't be on the mission. So it's that simple. And you got to keep it simple. You don't need to talk yourself into a butt kicking. Well, the way I put it, when I got out of the Navy as a SEAL in 2012, right then they were trying to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. None of that matters. What matters is, to me, if I'm wearing my gear and I get shot, can you carry me home to my wife? Period. That's it. When we show up, can you carry your gear? Can you kill the enemy and leave? That's it. Not hard. You become like the opposite of an asset to a team if you need to take certain hormone pills at a certain time or else you get irritable. There's no time for that. It's like, I don't want to take a woman who's pregnant into combat. I want to take someone and a person. Again, I've worked with women in combat, by the way, and they went through a really hard selection course. No one really knows about these women. The best example I have, it was months after the bin Laden raid, probably about February of 2012. We were in Afghanistan. We went into a mission. We walked through like probably 5 kilometers through a horrible frozen swamp. It's nasty. It sucked. Obviously, it was windy and rainy and sleety. And then we got in a gunfight. 30 SEALs, 3 women. When we got back after the gunfight, after we won, the entire time, 30 people complained, 3 did not. And it was the women who didn't complain. And I talked to them later because there's a difference between men and women. A lot of the left doesn't like to admit that. I think physiologically, women are stronger than men because of childbirth, which men couldn't do. Women do it because if men had to, we'd be extinct. But when we got back, I asked the 3 women, why didn't you complain at all? We all were. And they said, we like our jobs. We want to keep them. They passed a standard test to get there, and they were really good.
That's very interesting insight. I wanted to ask you a more general question about the Trump administration. Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth have had a message for Europe and the rest of the world. The U.S. is no longer going to be the policeman of the world. You have to find ways to take care of yourselves. This is something we've seen with Ukraine, with Europe, in the context of Russia. You are one of the most famous U.S. soldiers in history. How do you feel about that new approach from the U.S. government to tell the world we're not here to come and answer to any issues that you might have? It's time for you guys to take care of your own defense.
It's a great approach. NATO was formed to defend against Russia. And then the UN is there because European governments love government so much, they give their government a government and another government. We don't need any part of that. The first thing we should do is kick UN the hell out of New York. They're sitting on primetime real estate. They clog the traffic, and all they do is badmouth this country. Get them out. We should be out of NATO, too, because all NATO's done is they've disagreed with an agreement with Russia, like it or not, that we don't go further east, you don't go further west. And I personally was in Lithuania in 2001, right before 9/11. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia all want to join NATO. And Russia said, we can't have Ukraine do that. So we're pushing the button and we're basically telling Russia, hey, we'll put missiles wherever we want. And that goes into whichever lawmaker said that or whichever national security advisor obviously had a buddy who's making missiles so that he can get a big contract. A lot of that, I mean, I think it's NATO they got to pay 2% GDP and not all of them have done that. And it's not our place. We're going to be stronger not being in NATO, and with a strong United States, it's a stronger world. We don't need to be a part of those stupid groups, and we certainly don't need people talking through their eyebrows down their nose at our president.
Another aspect of the Trump administration that's been causing waves, DOGE, and how you think that could affect veteran benefits. I know you have a new company to try to help veterans with PTSD. Do you have any concerns about DOGE? And because a lot of veterans have already been protesting that they fear that the new administration is going to make cuts, not only for veterans, but I also wanted to ask you your ideas on making cuts on defense.
A lot of the veterans that you see protesting are going to be the ones that are being paid by the left. You'll see a lot of them out there. They're not touching the veterans. What happens though, the leftist media, who for some reason, they must love being on TV. The left media, every single place I've seen it, they go into work at 7 a.m., they have the meeting, and the agenda now is to push that back against DOGE because that's their honeypot. We should have been cutting people a long time ago. I love the way they came in and immediately started cutting people. I had no idea the level of corruption and straight up theft that our government officials that are elected, and more importantly, our non-elected officials that are making decisions and having a president with tapioca between his ears, auto sign, whatever they're coming up with. We had the Boston Tea Party, which started the Revolutionary War. That was based on a 2% tax on a breakfast beverage. Look, we're getting taxed the moment we are born to after we die. If you buy a house, if you pay cash for it, you're still paying tax. Over and over. You're paying tax on your gas. There's all kinds of rules for building a house or the office you drive to and the tolls. Tax, tax, tax. And for some reason, they've beat us down so much, we just accept it. And for some weird reason, half of the country wants it. Like even punk bands like Rage Against the Machine, they're for the machine. Why? The government is coming in, they're stealing from you, and then they'll say they're sending it somewhere. Look at what we're doing with they're not $500 toilet seats, but they put that on the price tag so it looks like it, so they can say that they're making Liberia aware of their voting rights. That money's going back into someone's pockets. We're $35 trillion in debt. It's going up to $36 trillion. If we get to $50 trillion in debt, my kids are screwed and so are yours, your grandkids. They'll be living under Sharia law, which is also coming. This needs to happen. Cut the government away and stop whining about, I can't afford my mortgage and my health care. You didn't deserve it in the first place. You got a cushy government job because you got a liberal arts degree from a BS university. We need to be more efficient. It's not hard. All we try to do is make stuff more complicated than shiny object. Don't pay attention to what we're doing. Same thing with China and fentanyl. China's pushing fentanyl across our borders because of what happened like in the 19th century with the opium wars. Britain was sending opium through India to them. They haven't forgotten. They fight the long war, but right now with the shiny objects, people are too busy looking at their iPhone that's made by slave labor, hearing about how bad America was because of TikTok, which is a Chinese algorithm. There's so much going on that's nonsense, and government efficiency is a department that's cutting it. And they're letting you know, and then the left freaks out because they're getting paid by them.
You bring up the drug war on America, fentanyl coming across our borders. Your company is looking at using weed as a method to treat PTSD. How has it been working with the Trump administration, with your company, in terms of making sure that you would classify as a helpful substance for veterans that are dealing with severe trauma? And then juxtaposition, Trump really cracking down on any sort of drugs coming into the country. Is there like a happy medium? What have your discussions really looked like on that?
Fentanyl is deadly. Fentanyl will kill you, and it's being weaponized by the Chinese. And when the borders were open to, they're in cahoots with said cartel based on which rat line you want to use. And coming through Canada as well, they're sending machines over here that are making the right stuff. It's an attack on the American populace. We get into cannabis, that does help with PTSD, and it's natural and it's not going to kill you. It's actually safer than having a few drinks and starting a bar fight. I'm an example with chronic PTSD. Alcohol doesn't always work. Same with psychedelics. We can't get Ibogaine, which will heal heroin overdoses overnight. I have to go to Mexico to do the treatment for 5-MeO-DMT, psilocybin, stuff like that, because it's not legal here. They'll tell you because these are club drugs. No, they're not. I'd love to talk to President Trump about this. These heal, and the reason we can't do them here is because they're a cure. Big Pharma they don't make money off a cure, but man, they sure will. They'll make a lot of money off the treatment. The cannabis that I've started, Operator Canna Company, this is a way to do it. For me personally, I have trouble sleeping at night just because of all the nonsense, not nonsense, but combat I've seen, and cannabis helps me. And that's my go-to now. That's what I like. It's better than drinking half a bottle of whiskey. In my case, anything in moderation obviously is good, but I'm choosing to go one way. So my angle with the cannabis company is PTSD, because I don't remember the last time someone smoked a joint and then went and started a big fight. They will get into your Doritos and your cereal. That's about it.
Have you talked at all with the VA Secretary, Doug Collins, about this, or do you have plans to have discussions in the future? Because I could see this being something that the Trump administration would embrace, although Trump seems to be digging his feet in the sand a little bit about lessening restrictions on marijuana.
I'm actually going down to DC this week. I'm going to talk with some members about cannabis, about cognitive baselines. We have some technology that can actually tell you when you're going to get traumatic brain injury, which is huge in the military. Talk to them about cannabis and just alternative stuff. Hopefully we can get to the VA. But see, again, the bureaucracy that you got to cut through is really hard. The VA will push back against this. One of the issues with the military, with the Pentagon and the VA is this is the way we've always done it. Yeah, you've always been screwed. The Pentagon's never passed an audit. Imagine if you didn't pass an audit. You're going to prison, right? The Pentagon gets away with it. So I've got friends there. I mean, ideally, what I'd like to do as a registered independent, by the way, is get some veterans who are Democrats, bring them on board with how we can help the veterans. But the issue there is you're dealing with Democrats, and all their leadership cares about is the party hurt Trump, win the midterm. That's all they do. They don't care about you. They don't care about this country. They've proven they don't care about the borders. They don't care about the debt or how much they spend. They want to win the two midterms, and then they want to go on to the next one and get the presidency. That's all they want to do. If we got a couple vets from the right and the left together, man, we could walk through the halls of Congress going door to door and whipping up just good single line item ideas. And I'd love to see it work that way. But unfortunately, I've been to DC a lot and it just doesn't, that's not how it rolls there. They grandfather everything in there, it seems.
Maybe former Democrat Robert Kennedy Jr. can help in that case.
Well, I mean, you saw what his famous Democrat family did to him when he left the party. They shut him. And look at Elon Musk. He was a god to the left about a year ago. And now Teslas are bad. I bought a ton of Tesla stock, by the way, and it's skyrocketing.
Oh, yeah. The big announcement just happened that Trump's been whispering to some of his aides Elon is going to exit really soon. And once that came out, Tesla stock started skyrocketing. I do want to switch gears a little bit. There were 4 U.S. soldiers, who were killed in Lithuania last week. When Trump was asked about it in the Oval Office, he seemed to actually be taken aback. He was taken by surprise. He didn't know. And he even said, I have not been briefed about this. What do you think about that? Should the president have been immediately told about these missing soldiers and them being potentially in harm's way?
I think a fatality like that, they should say something to him. Obviously, there's delegated authority. The 3 were confirmed dead. They found the 4th, I think, Monday or Tuesday. It should be known. He doesn't need to be blindsided by that, especially with Lithuania that's right over there, Eastern Bloc country next to Russia. Russia might like them too, so he should know what's going on.
I'm sure he probably was not very happy to be caught off guard. That is not the Trump we know. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for being here. We really appreciate your time and giving us some insight of what's going on in MAGAland. And please keep us posted after you have your Hill meetings and meetings with the administration. We'd love to follow up with how your company is growing and expanding.
Thank you both. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
If you like this episode, we think you'll love this.
This week on The Life of Bryony, what if the hardest thing was to just accept yourself? I'm joined by Callum Scott to talk about body dysmorphia, being on Britain's Got Talent, and why self-acceptance isn't about being perfect. Listen to The Life of Bryony, available now.
And we are back to talk all things Liberation Day. But Kelly, we have to start with 3 races that happened over the weekend that tell us a lot about the state of MAGAland and maybe not what we expected. I think the biggest one is this Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, where Elon Musk and the MAGA world gave it all for the conservative candidate. Something to the tune of $21 million was spent from the conservative side only for the liberal to win. What does this mean, Kelly? Is MAGAland saying no more to Elon Musk?
I think this race is a little bit unique because I don't think the Republican really ever had a shot of winning the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. So it is surprising that Elon Musk's $20+ million didn't go as far as Republicans had hoped. And he personally traveled out to Wisconsin. He was in Milwaukee rallying the troops.
He was paying. What can we mention that? Because we were confused as to how that was legal. But then he said something like, if you do this for something that you already believed in, you could make $1 million.
Yeah, it was a $2 million giveaway, 2 $1 million checks to voters in Wisconsin who pledged to vote for Brad Schimmel, the Republican. And then he also had a separate giveaway. It was a smaller dollar, $20 if you posted a photo with a thumbs up with Brad Schimmel or an image of Brad Schimmel. So he was basically trying to get awareness out about this race.
And at what point did he appear with the cheese on his head? Because that was part of the whole thing too, right?
That was his weekend rally. So he was in Milwaukee rallying the troops, trying to get awareness. Because I think that's the biggest issue with this race, right? This is a state Supreme Court seat. No one really knows what it is, why they should vote, especially in Wisconsin. I mean, like, you have to go back to the polls for these random, ballot initiatives and seat races that you might not really be familiar with. So I think ultimately was trying to raise awareness about this race, which he successfully did, but it still wasn't enough.
Especially because he's been talking so much about activist judges, right? So it seems like this may be where Elon Musk's activism is headed just for these type of races.
The thing that's really concerning, though, is because Republicans lost the seat, now it solidifies the Democrats' supermajority in the state Supreme Court. And this is going to really shake up 2026 and 2028 because now the Supreme Court can okay redistricting plans that are going to hurt Republicans in the midterm elections just around the corner in the swing states. So basically what we're predicting right now is that 2 Republicans could potentially lose their seats. And that's enough to flip the balance of power in the House to Democrats.
These are the little civics details that get lost along the way of why these races matter.
Oh, yeah. So I think Hakeem Jeffries woke up today feeling great. He's excited to be the next Speaker of the House because this is such a critical state in terms of being a swing state generally. And then it has these districts that are going to be redrawn, and safe Republicans are now going to flip Democrats. So it's going to really impact the elections. And we saw that Wisconsin being a very critical swing state for presidential races, if the state is now trending liberal, as we saw last night, then this isn't good for a Trump successor like JD Vance, or even if Trump tries to run for a third term.
Right, because Trump carried Wisconsin during the last election. But I think these 3 races, the Wisconsin one and 2 House seats in Florida, show how much the Republican Party relies on Donald Trump, because the Republicans did keep these 2 House seats, but really very much underperformed Trump in Florida.
I do think that the Florida outcomes are really good for Trump, and it shows that his MAGA agenda in the first 100 days is resonating. Voters came out, they were enthusiastic, and this is a special election. So this isn't a day where there's a lot of voter turnout like there is compared to a general election. So even though there was less Republican turnout for these special candidates compared to Trump, that would be expected in a special election. I think that these 2 Republicans winning these seats gives Speaker Mike Johnson a little bit more padding in his majority, which he desperately needs, because right now he's facing Republican chaos and crisis in the House. He's not getting his people in line. They totally unraveled yesterday.
So I was seeing comments from Charlie Kirk, one of the new right's influencers, and he was admitting that the Republican Party has a problem with races where Trump isn't there. So as you're saying, what does this all mean for Trump's successor? Can JD Vance carry on the magic of MAGAland? Because so far, it's only Trump who brings that out. Is that why Trump went after several Republicans on social media?
Yeah, he went after 4 Republicans in particular last night, just in a late night rant. Because basically what happened yesterday was there was drama between lower level House members about this one discharge petition. I don't want to get into too many details. It's very procedural. But what ended up happening was that Speaker Mike Johnson couldn't get his members in line. So it caused the House to shut down for the next 4 days. And now they're not going to pass any of the Trump agenda that they had planned for the week. So it makes Speaker Mike Johnson look bad, and it angers Trump, who then was taking to True Social to lash out.
And I mean, in your reporting here, you have even said how in several votes, Trump had to pick up the phone. So the Speaker of the House does not have control over his caucus.
Johnson heavily relies on Trump to get his agenda across the finish line. And it's because of the small majority. So now with a couple extra seats for padding, that does help Johnson. I wanted to bring up another part of Trump's True Social rant. He was going after Mitch McConnell and Susan Collins because these are 2 Republicans in the Senate who plan to vote for a measure that would slap down Trump's tariffs. So this is pretty big because today's Liberation Day. Trump's enacting potentially a 20% sweeping tariff off on any imports into the United States. The Senate is acting to basically give him like a gut punch with a measure that basically won't have much effect, but it'll signal to the world that they're against these tariffs because they think they're bad for Americans. So it makes Trump look not so great. And so that's why he was taking the True Social and tearing into some of these Republicans who have in the past burned him.
The leftovers, the rhinos, that these people are not convenient to Trump. It's crazy. I was about to call Mitch McConnell a moderate, but I guess now he would be seen as basically closer to the center, how things have changed. But yes, indeed, it's Liberation Day. I saw some reporting that Trump actually, because this was supposed to be yesterday on April Fool's Day, and then Trump said, absolutely not. I don't like that date. Again, the showman knows when to do it. Apparently, he's going to have a conference at 4 p.m. in the Rose Garden because he wants to put out the visuals of Americana, the great new age is about to start again. As you said, he is expected to establish 20% tariffs across the board on imports. This is quite something, as experts say that this would immediately trigger a recession. Already, China, Japan, and South Korea are working together as a unit to try to counter US tariffs. We've already talked about how the EU and Canada are looking to work together. Other countries are preparing to fight back. But what about Americans? Are we preparing for a recession?
There's a lot of uncertainty about one, what the tariffs are actually going to look like, if they're going to be structured in a tier system, if every country's impacted, if there's any exceptions, and then two, what this is going to look like when it hits Americans in their wallets. So there's a lot of question marks that remain. We don't have many details at this point coming out of the White House, but Trump has said continuously, and Caroline Leavitt, press secretary, that these are ultimately going to be good for Americans. Americans should be patient. They do admit that it might hurt them in the short term, but in the long term, it's best for America, standing up to foes, standing up to allies who aren't pulling their fair share on the world stage.
I'm quite concerned about this. We'll see how things evolve and how prices start changing and whether we get a recession. Because again, experts say it would basically be an immediate reaction. But we had some movement in the stock market today thanks to Trump and Elon Musk. Kelly was just telling me it's a breaker. It appears that the first buddy is getting ready to get back to his normal duties.
Yeah, kind of a shocking report came out today saying that Trump has been privately telling some of his closest allies and cabinet members that he wants Elon Musk down from Doge and sooner than the anticipated May date that he was going to exit. So it looks like there might be some more drama that we're not privy to behind the scenes, particularly between Trump and Musk. We do know that Musk has been embroiled in lots of dramas in the last few weeks. His baby mama drama that we'll get into a little bit later today, his alleged Nazi salute, his huge push in Wisconsin that really didn't come together and didn't show up for Republicans. And as we all know, Democrats have totally targeted Elon Musk in so many different ways. He really has become the fall guy for the administration. And his Tesla cars, his Tesla shops and charging ports have been firebombed and they've been attacked by liberal dissidents. So there might be some more discord that we're hearing behind the scenes, potentially with Chief of Staff Susie Wiles souring on Musk and some other of the president's closest allies who are now saying, time's up, Elon, time to go.
It's interesting because all the reporting, this was from Politico. I've never seen reporting saying that there's friction between Trump and Musk, unless it hasn't gotten out there. It seems even this decision, per the article, came from the two of them. So I guess I would be interested. As we've mentioned, Elon Musk is Trump's highest political donor. What would happen in a disagreement? Elon has said he truly loves Trump. It seems like he might mean it because so far, with a person as controversial as Trump, there has been no rumors or stories of any type of disagreement. I find that quite something. So if Elon does agree to step away at the appropriate time, according to Trump, wow, what an ally to the president, truly.
It's interesting you bring up if they do have some sort of explosive falling out, then what's going to happen with Trump's massive pocketbook as we go into the midterms and then also 2028. So it remains to be seen. But as we know, Elon brings his kids around Trump. He's always at Mar-a-Lago having dinner. So it seems like they're at least on the public surface in good graces, but there might be some drama between staff or aides and Musk that could be contributing to this. So we'll get to the bottom of it.
Well, at least for Tesla investors, it's good news that Elon Musk is getting back to his day job because the stock recovered right after news that he was going to be spending less time in DC. And now we got to talk about more Elon news because we had a Daily Mail exclusive that I think finally got Elon to respond to allegations by the right-wing influencer Ashley St. Clair, who says they had a son and that basically since she came out with this information, Elon Musk has ghosted her and refused to give her more money. Our Daily Mail reporter, Will Potter, caught her outside the apartment, the fancy apartment in Manhattan, selling the Tesla that she had recently obtained and saying that she has been forced to do this because Elon has retaliated against her.
Yeah, let's take a listen to that video because it's quite shocking.
I'm selling it because I need to make up for the 60% cut that Elon made to our son's child support.
Why do you think that he did that?
That's a great question for him.
You feel like he was sort of like vindictive against you in some way?
Yeah, that's his modus operandi when women speak out.
When was the last time that you spoke to him or tried to speak to him?
February 13th.
But he's just not responding to you at all?
So what I find most staggering about this report is that Elon Musk doesn't know if the child is his, but he's already given $2.5 million. So I guess $1 million to him is probably like $10 to us or something.
Yeah, well, it is.
I don't know what the equivalent would be, but he's so rich that it doesn't really matter if he even is blood DNA.
Just gave her some cash, some change.
Or he does know at some level or something. I think there's probably something more behind the scenes. But St. Clair is really sticking it to him. She's pulling the move by all the Democrats we're seeing about selling the Tesla.
I have many questions here. Yes, how is she going to navigate this battle with Elon while remaining a right-wing influencer? Is she going to now go to the left and be the #1 anti-Tesla person? Second, I thought Elon is proudly trying to repopulate the world. Why would he not just say, yes, this is my kid? Given that she shared a picture allegedly of the baby and Elon, she replied to him on X saying, you named our baby. A lot of doubts here, but certainly this MAGAland storyline is going to keep on giving because Ashley St. Clair will not be silenced. Also, Kelly, I wanted to get your take. Laura Loomer's place in this controversy. She appears to be like the attack dog against Ashley St. Clair. In fact, it was when Laura Loomer shared the Daily Mail video accusing Ashley St. Clair of terrible things that Elon replied to Laura Loomer saying, I don't even know if the baby is mine. Maybe it's just Elon has a bunch of right-wing female fans. I don't know what it is. Maybe Laura wants the next little Elon, unclear. But as we discussed before, there's a weird rhetoric and narrative by right-wing female influencers against Ashley St. Clair.
Yeah, there definitely is. And as we know, Laura Loomer loves to get involved in drama, particularly when it comes to Elon Musk and some of the Trump orbit, because she was ousted from that orbit herself. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me that she's weighing in.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I had totally forgotten. Never forget Laura's time on the Trump war. They really got her out fast. Oh my God, I had forgotten. She lasted days.
So it's sort of the cycle of life, I guess, and now she's weighing in on it from the other side.
We need to do a listicle of the MAGA world girlies. Laura Loomer, the human printer, Ashley St. Clair. These are all women under 30 that are really making headlines out there.
There's also another MAGA women's civil war brewing right now, and it's between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Anna Paulina Luna, because Anna Paulina Luna was the Republican that basically got the entire agenda shut down on the floor this week because of her discharge position. The one that we discussed before about allowing pregnant or newly nursing mothers to vote proxy. And Marjorie was really angry. She started tearing into her on X. We're actually hoping to speak with her today and get more information on the Civil War.
What is she angry about?
She's just angry that Anna Paulina was able to shut down Trump's agenda and get several votes ripped from the floor because of what she wanted. We'll keep everyone apprised to what's going on there. John Michael, our reporter who's been on the show before, he's speaking with her. So we should have some interesting tidbits on that front.
Cannot wait. But speaking of Congress, we have a story with Senator Cory Booker, who has broken the record for the longest speech on the floor. It was a 25-hour rant. What's interesting here is that usually this is done to prevent voting. It's called a filibuster. But Cory Booker was not trying to prevent any voting. He just wanted to do.
No. Yeah, it was just a total stunt, an anti-Trump rant that went on for 25 hours straight. He didn't even leave the floor to use the bathroom or eat during this entire time. And he actually said that he was basically dehydrating himself over the weekend so that he could get to a place where he wouldn't have to use the bathroom. Although there's been a lot of speculation that he probably was wearing a diaper or had a catheter Because Ted Cruz, when he did his famous filibuster green eggs and ham, he was wearing a catheter. I also saw some theories that he was actually wearing two suits so that if he had to go to the bathroom, it would sort of
Yeah,
not.
actually, I saw that Cory Booker's team had to deny that because that's all everyone wanted to know. How did you not use the restroom? However, as you mentioned, he said that he had been not eating or trying not to eat since the weekend in preparation for this. Let's take a listen to some of his anti-Trump rant.
And if I think it's a call for our country, I have to ask myself how I'm living these words. So tonight, I rise with the intention of getting in some good trouble. I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our country is in crisis. And I believe that not in a partisan sense, because so many of the people that have been reaching out to my office in pain, in fear, having their lives upended, so many of them identify themselves as Republicans.
So, Kelly, how is this allowed? Like, why at that moment? Again, I have so many questions, but I thought it was interesting. The record that Senator Booker broke was previously held by Senators Strom Thurmond, and he was trying to prevent a vote on the Civil Rights Act. He apparently went to the bathroom with a bucket while doing that. So, that's some interesting history, but I'm glad Senator Booker got his bit of attention there. Maybe it'll carry him into the next presidential election because I think that's one that we can expect to try to get in there.
It's another example, right, of Democrats not knowing how to effectively push back against Trump. And so they're doing these crazy stunts or these like very extreme measures that honestly, the everyday American had no idea this was going on. This was a very insider DC, inside MAGAland, and all the MAGAland people were making fun of it, saying, wow, this is how you're pushing back.
If you're not doing it for a reason, like, I still don't understand. Instead of saving this little trick for maybe when they did want to prevent a vote, when it was something about Doge that the American people aren't sure about, yes, they continue to waste their chances. But you know who's not wasting any chances to please their voters? The GOP. And I think this announcement by the Attorney General Pam Bondi is more throwing red meat to the base. She wants the death penalty for alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione. This is another of these cultural issues that the country is divided on a party line, it seems, which is wild because murder, we should all be against it. But it does seem that the right is throw the law against this kid, and then liberals are more sympathetic towards Luigi.
There's that weird fascination too of Gen Z voters with Luigi. So I was seeing a lot of chatter on X basically saying Republicans are going to harm themselves by doing the death penalty because they won't get the Gen Z vote because they're all in love with this guy, which I think is absurd because Republicans have always branded themselves as the law and order party and rule of law party. And so this is a great example of DOJ enforcing the death penalty for this alleged horrific crime in broad daylight that everyone in the world was aware of. There's just a lot of weird drama with it.
And it is terrorism. I've heard this argument. School shooters don't get the death penalty and they can kill dozens of people. However, my counter to that would be this is explicit terrorism, which is violence to spark something for a change.
Yeah. And a lot of times the alleged perpetrator would be killed in a standoff with police, but Luigi is alive and well. And so it's a little bit of a unique situation where he's here. He's the face of this horrible crime now. And I think DOJ was right to take this action in terms of what the Trump administration had promised on the campaign trail, which was reinstating the death penalty and actually using it.
Maybe also to send a message because Luigi's fans are everywhere. There's one Instagram page that's like Latinas for Luigi, and they are corresponding with him. At some point, I saw that he shared how he was keeping a record of his letters in a very engineering mind type of way. So this guy is a celebrity and certainly would make sense for the federal government to send a message. That's not the way to become beloved and famous.
It's certainly wild, and we'll keep an eye on it.
Well, I think that's it for today, but Kelly's day is certainly only starting with these tariffs that are going to go into place today. So I'm sure by Friday, Kelly will have a lot more tea to serve.
That's right. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Welcome to MAGAland and email us at welcometomagaland.com. See you on Friday.
If you like this episode, we think you'll love this.
This week on The Life of Bryony, what if the hardest thing was to just accept yourself? I'm joined by Callum Scott to talk about body dysmorphia, being on Britain's Got Talent, and why self-acceptance isn't about being perfect. Listen to The Life of Bryony, available now.